Well, folks, you know you're in for a treat when you hear that tune because it means it's time for another edition of the Rec Poker Podcast. I'm the luckiest guy in the world. My name's Jim Reid, Bluffsterini in the home game, Rec Poker Jim on Twitter. And I'm the luckiest guy in the world because every week I get to hang out here with these awesome, this gang here. And sometimes we get an amazing guest from the poker world and we get to pick their brain in the chats edition of the podcast. And who knows what the future has in store for us tonight. I just want to revel in this moment. I'm here with Keith and John and Rob and Chris. We've got a few friends here in the Rec Poker YouTube chat. And, you know, joining the chat in YouTube every week is free. Just like a lot of the stuff that we do here at Rec Poker. It's a largely volunteer organization. A lot of what we do is free. That's why we have to thank our sponsors, the Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino, and Mark Bershon over at Website Amp, who makes all the magic happen here behind the curtain. So I mentioned my name's Jim Reid, Bluffsterini in the home games, at Rec Poker Jim on Twitter. And if you want to find out more about me, you can go to rec.poker/crew, because that's where we have information about everybody on the Wrecking Crew, from Dario Carney and Kevin Mathers to folks like myself, Rob Washam, John Somsky, Keith Brandt, and Chris Jones. But why am I talking about it? Why don't you guys tell the audience at home a little bit about yourselves, gang?
I feel like my thunder has been stolen here, but I'm Chris Jones. I'm 5v5 on Twitter, and you can find me 5x5 on the PokerStars home game.
And I am John Somsky. I am known as the Thunderless Poker Geek MN everywhere.
And I'm Keith Brandt, and I am Monkey System everywhere.
And I'm Rob Washam, and I'm Radman50 just about everywhere.
Nice. And I see already we've got a fun couple of folks in the chat over here. We've got Martha and Ben and a few others. And I do encourage our listeners, come join us live Monday night, 7:30 Eastern, every Monday here on YouTube. It's a great way to ask questions of the guests yourself in real time. And we also do a contest every week. You usually get a chance to win a copy of a book or a free month of premium membership at Rec Poker, or some other fun prizes. And all you got to do is show up and type contest. Usually, if you're the first person to type contest, you're never going to know. You never know what's going to happen. We've been rolling one a lot around here lately on my little nerdy dice. But you never know. That they say it could be anyone. Any one of you could be the lucky winner. So let me see. Why don't we start? Chris, you've been glued to the television watching some of this coverage. The World Series of Poker main event just ended. We have a champion. It's one that you saw coming, as a matter of fact. You put a tweet out there when they were, was it 3 tables still? Or
when there were 27 left, I said, Espen Jorstad is going to win this. And so, I mean, I don't know. I got lucky, but he was pretty awesome. If you have a Poker Go subscription and you have a chance to watch just even the tag team, I mean, watching him on the final table is amazing too, but he made some plays in that tag team event, which I'm still thinking about. They were really strong plays and really put the screws to his opponents. And so that's kind of why I watched that. I was kind of excited when Jamie Kerstetter made that final table, and I was kind of watching some of that. But I was really impressed with his play.
And it's been interesting watching along on Twitter too. Twitter's mostly where I spend my social media time, and there's been a lot of interesting takes and threads on different spots in the final table, and how certain people would play against other opponents and that sort of thing, which is always kind of interesting to see this ecosystem of opinion come up around this kind of stuff. Chris, did you feel like it was, and everyone else, of course, please feel free to jump in here at any time. I'm pretty sure Rec Poker Nation is pretty sick of hearing me talking on the podcast every week. What were some of the most exciting moments for you as someone who was watching it, as a fan who really knows poker?
Well, I mean, for me, there were a few things that I was really, I mean, early on, I thought there were some really amazing hands that took place. And there were some, one of the things I really enjoyed this year where there's some very strong wild cards in the field, especially as they got into like day 5, day 6. There was a guy named Jang who was running bluffs pretty much all the time, but at all the right times. And I'm not sure if that was just he got really lucky or he had some sort of read, but he was somebody I kind of like, as I was watching him, I was like, this guy's going to flame out at some point, because it's just, you just can't sustain this amount of whatever. But it was really fun to watch. It was really fun to watch. Of course, there were some women who made some pretty deep runs. We had a woman who was still present until the final 2 tables, so I think that was really exciting. And hoping, I was kind of hoping that she made that final table. Where we still haven't burst that bubble since 1995, so that would have been really cool. And at the final table itself, I thought the most interesting things for me were the play of. There were some just really strong players at the table. The other thing that I think was really interesting is the chip leader ended up going out in 9th. And I think there's some question, like for me, it was almost just like he just kind of ran and like it can happen, right? It's like you're not supposed to have it happen, but like he got 2 outed. He lost a flip and suddenly he was short, and then it just was not his table. But it's one of those that I'm sure he's going to be sort of haunted by. And then I think the final hand is one that it was a full house versus bottom pair. He had Jack 4 on a deuce 4 queen 8 board. And he ended up calling off for about 35 big blinds on a river shove. And that was it. That was the main event. And I think that hand in particular, I think, is a very interesting one to think about.
Well, maybe
those are my takeaways.
We should take a look at a couple of those a little more closely on a forums edition of the podcast, maybe coming up, and kind of examine what people's ranges might be, and what little red flags might have been shooting up in our minds when we're thinking about it. Because, I mean, you really got to hand it to these players. They're going through quite an endurance challenge. Being focused for that long when the stakes are this high, I'm kind of surprised we don't see more just stupid errors. I'll be honest with you. By the time the final table comes along, and I noticed Ben Enslow in the chat is pointing out some other moments. There is, I think, I kind of forgot about some of these. Karai Aldemir made an almost historic run. To get back to, after he won it last year, he made a very, very deep run. He was in kind of the last day, or day 7, he made it to. And then there was this sort of fold heard around the world where a player folded ace queen on a queen deuce king board, and correctly folded to king. And that was impressive. Yeah, Rob, did you have anything jumping out at you while you were watching?
Well, I didn't get to watch it, but I've kind of did what you do. I follow along on Twitter and see what the hubbub is. There was some hubbub when it got down to 10 players. The question was, do we play 2 tables of 5 or 1 table of 10? And I was just wondering what Chris's take was on that. I think there's some people that say it's not fair because you got that big blind ante and there's only 5 players. But then other people are saying, well, that's really the way it should be because the final table should be 9, not 10. So I was just wondering what Chris's take was on all that controversy.
Yeah, and I mean, that also reminds me that the other controversy that's associated with that is that they played a grueling day 7. They played I think 17 hours and finished at like 6:30 in the morning in Vegas time. So to get down to those 10 players, and I think there was some conversation in the poker world about whether that's really fair for the pinnacle of poker for us to be having this kind of grand spectacle where nobody can, nobody's staying, not nobody, but very few people are staying up till, 4 or 5 in the morning to watch this, first of all. So are we losing that viewership side of it? But also, is it fair for people who are making millions of dollars in equity decisions to be completely sleep deprived? So that was one question. But yeah, I don't know. Like the when you get down to that 10 thing, I would say that most common poker rooms that I've been to stay at kind of a 5-5 setup when you get into that scenario. But I kind of like it for the main event. It just feels like it feels right for some reason to me to be 10, and like you're getting down to that final table and to bring everybody together. It's like one table. I don't know, like for this event, it feels right to me, but I can certainly see the case saying like, well, that's not how most events do it. So why are we changing it for the main event? So I don't know. What is your take?
It seems like a tough to say, like, it just makes me realize how little I want to be in charge of some of these decisions, because it sounds like there's good reasons for both sides of it. Like I know there was an interesting take on Twitter, about having the balanced tables before you get to the final table, so that because if you're combining at 10, that means for a while you've got 6 on one table and 5 on another table. And if you're combining at 9, at least that means you've got 5 on each table. But I mean, that just means that you still have 6 on one table and 5 at one table before then. Right. Rob, what do you think?
Yeah, I think for the to make it easier, especially for viewers, I think it really makes sense to go to 10, because now you have one table. So you have everybody at one table instead of having 2 tables when you're down to that crucial point of having 10 players. So you can have all the action on one table when you get down, when you're trying to get down to that final table. So I think from a viewing standpoint, it probably makes a lot more sense to have 10.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's hard to pick a final table where players are going to be playing tighter than this normally. So if you're telling me that you make it 10-handed and now players have to play even a little more tight, that doesn't seem like such a big deal, as opposed to making another final table where people would normally, with different structures, having to tighten up because the 10th person at the table might be a different factor.
I believe historically they've always joined the tables and had a single 10-handed table. However, the official final table does not begin until one person is knocked out and they're down to 9 players.
Right. The November 9 era. Right. It wasn't the November 10. That's a good point.
And I'll just point out in the chat, we have a really great comment from Phil, who points out that it's easier for Jim to count one table versus 2. So
that's true. When I'm counting, I get a little fuzzy after 1.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good getting 0 to 1. I'm all over that. And then there's a bit of a hill to climb for me there personally. And then 2. And then there's another T word after that.
That one's tough.
That one is tough because it's a longer word too.
Yeah.
And then you end up into some shorter words that start with the same letter, 4 and 5. I can get there easily. And then even shorter for 6. So thank you, Phil, for pointing that out. It's nice to have you in my corner as always.
Well, I think another difference, in your normal card rooms, they probably like keeping it 2 5-handed tables, partially just because it's going to run through the people quicker. Mm-hmm. And in a normal card room, trying to get the tournament over is an advantage to them. Although they are paying 2 dealers instead of 1, but
yeah. Well, and the sooner they can get it down to 1 table, that's 1 fewer dealer. That's 1. They can definitely, the casinos like 10-handed at every spot.
And in most of the tournaments we're kind of talking about, the structure is also wildly different. Like people are going to be, when we're 5 and 5 at like a daily tournament or even like a big weekend tournament, when we're 5 and 5, people are going to be short. And in this, they're not. People had 70, 80, 90 big blinds as we were approaching this spot. So that it's not quite the same dynamic either.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Rob, did we learn the other day that your main event bust out hand was pocket eights? Am I saying that correctly? It was nines you got the quads with.
Right.
Because you got quads on TV, living the dream.
Evidence to prove it. Yep.
Yep, that's right.
Yep.
But that now you and I have another thing in common, my brother. Pocket eights.
Yes.
Now, how many years ago was your main event performance?
2018.
Okay, so for the last
4 years ago.
For the last 4 years, has every time you see pocket eights, does it remind you of that experience, or did it for the first 6 months, or did it like for the first week, or because I feel like every time I see pocket eights now, I get to think about playing in the main event. It might be my new favorite hand.
No, I actually don't even, until you mentioned that you went out with pocket eights, I had forgotten that I had also gone out with pocket eights.
There you go. That's the veteran response there. It's just a hand. It's just a hand of poker.
Exactly. It's just a hand of poker.
I'm not as wise as Rob. Queen 10 of diamonds is something that it still haunts me a little bit.
Yep. It's funny. I wasn't expecting that at all. But it's funny how that kind of stuff sticks with you. When I proposed to Mrs. Bluff-Storini, I did it right at the top of the CN Tower, which is a very tall tower in Toronto. And one of the side effects of that never occurred to me in the planning of it was that whenever I'm in Toronto now, I look up and I'm like, oh, there's a nice little reminder of this wonderful moment when I proposed to my wife. And I don't know what I was doing recently, but I must have been playing in the home game or something, and I got dealt pocket eights, and I was like, same kind of thing. I wasn't expecting to have that like memento of the experience, but it's going to be hard for me to get dealt pocket eights and not think about busting from the main event in pretty much one of the best possible ways. So I do feel pretty good about that. John, I see you're unmuted. Do you have some?
Well, I didn't, but I can, of course, add on. When I have that similar type of deja vu, there are some podcasts that will occasionally do a repeat. And it's like when I hear the repeat, I remember where I was the first time I was listening. If I was on a motorcycle ride somewhere, I'll remember that. Or, as long as it wasn't something like I was doing dishes, then I might not remember. But that same type of experiential memory will come back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool.
I think for me, it was the fact that it was a few hands earlier. I had pocket kings and lost a huge pot.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went out with the eights, I only had like 10 or 15 big blinds at the time. So it wasn't as big a decision to make as if I would have had 40 or 50 big blinds.
Yep.
So I had already lost a big pot earlier with pocket kings. And then I ran my eights into somebody else's pocket kings to lose the whole thing.
Yep.
So do pocket kings make you think of the main event then?
No.
Cool as a cucumbber.
Yeah,
those
definitely.
are all just independent decisions based on the situation at the time.
You're just such a better person than me.
He's the Zen master.
Yeah, he's total Zen master.
He's the Zen master. That's why he's in charge of the book study. He just guides us through on that even keel. I love it. Yep. Well, yeah. So Rob, you put your eights into pocket kings. I put my eights into pocket aces. I also had like 12 or 13 big blinds or something like that. It's a pretty good way to bust the main event. I felt like I was,
it's so much better than having aces and the other person having eights and going out that way, right? Like just, like I lost a pocket eight. I don't know. That just feels, come on.
Keith, what about you? What do you have any mementos or?
It's not a main event thing, but pocket eights knocked me out of the super senior this year.
Oh, really? Yeah, you were.
It must be a bad hand.
Maybe. Yeah, that's right. Oh, that's funny. Yep. Well, maybe. Yeah. So, folks, if you're listening at home, I'd love to know if other people have that kind of experience where playing in a big tournament, or maybe not the biggest tournament of your life, but like an important one to you in some way, your winning hand or your bust out hand How long has that stuck around? I'd love to know a little more about that. And if you're in the chat on YouTube too, though, I'm very curious because that's kind of like a human experience, you know.
I think we need to change our range by about 1 pip. Maybe 8s shouldn't been in that range, and it should have been 9s plus.
Yeah. Yep. Well, 9s makes quads, so we know that.
9s make exactly.
Right.
That's a good point. Well, we put that in. Hey, Chris, put that in the next month's theme of training material that we're doing here.
Fold your 8s.
Just fold your 8s. Yep. It goes 5s, aces, kings, all the way down to 8s. That's how it works now.
No, down to 9s, and then
stop. Well, we've got a couple interesting things coming up. I should just shout out again how much freaking fun we had at Rec Poker Weekend at Running Aces. John Barrows, the tournament manager there, and his crew put a really great production together. I had a lot of fun meeting a lot of folks, getting my ass whooped in the tournament series, mostly by Doug Drabeck. And I never heard from Cole. Cole, if you're listening, you won a prize by taking me out that first session. So look me up, man, and we'll connect. But yeah, I can't wait to do another weekend down there, and hopefully it won't be the day before the tag team event in Vegas, and we'll have a little more time to relax and spend some time around there, get to know Minnesota a little better too. I got a chance to go take a boat ride with Captain Walleye and had some other fun in the region, but it's a place I'd like to spend a little more time. Beautiful countryside. One point I have to bring up. So we were doing the Wreck the Main hashtag down there, which I really enjoyed. I think we should have some kind of hashtag for people playing in the recreational players like us playing in the World Series next year. Hashtag Wreck the WSOP, maybe, like that does kind of roll off the tongue pretty well. And we are there to wreck the WSOP. So maybe that's what we'll start using. But when I was down there wrecking the main, we talk about etiquette a lot on the show and playing poker in the right way. And there were a few opportunities that I had to notify the player to my left or right that I could see their cards when they check their cards. And this is something that I think we've talked about on the show before. My protocol is I'm going to tell them the first few times. The last time I tell them, I'm going to say, I'm not going to tell you again, but I can't stop my eye. Like I'm not looking at your cards, but I'm a human. And if I'm looking over this way and you show your cards, I'm going to see your cards. So that was really well received. And I just think it's one of those things that you want to win in the right way. If someone's showing their cards around, you should at least give them a chance to better that practice. But one of the things that stood out, we're coming back from break. And I won't, there's a lot of great dealers in the WSOP, but they're also really doing everything they can to fill that seat. And some of the dealers are maybe not that experienced or, could benefit from a helpful hand from some of the players. There were a few spots where pots were counted wrong or side pots weren't correct or, the action was slow or that sort of thing. Real first world problems. But in the main event, everyone really wants things to go smoothly and for there to be as few hiccups as possible. So we got back from break on day 2, about halfway through the day, and maybe it was dinner break. It felt like I think it was coming back after a long break, and the player to my right, a guy named Matt, they had arranged the dealer had arranged the button incorrectly, and Matt had been given the small blind, and we're all ready to play. We've been gone for our whole dinner break, so we're the dealer's getting ready. They're shuffling up. Everyone's got their chips in, and Matt says, "Hey, you know what? I think I should be the big blind on this hand." And a couple other people at the table were like, "Oh no, he was the button last time, so he should be the button now." No, it's all good. And Matt had a chance to really just take the small blind and have the big blind skip him. But he's like, no, I'm very sure this is supposed to be my big blind. Remember, you were in this position before, and this is what the action was. And remember, you just checked the big blind, and the table came around to it, and they were like, "Well, no, you're right. You are supposed to be the big blind right now." And so I just want to give that guy Matt a shout out. I told him to send me an email, and I think I just got one from him actually. I haven't had a chance to really dig into that today, but just such a great gesture in the biggest spot you're going to be in. It's a $10,000 tournament. To say, actually, no, it's supposed to be my big blind here. I just thought that was great, and I just love seeing people like that enjoy poker and do well in poker. And I hope we get to hear from Matt. Maybe we'll get him on YouTube one of these days or something and see what he's up to now, because that was just a wonderful experience and good for him. Let me see what else is on our list. We've got some exciting things coming up. August 9th. Okay, so for some of our women members and listeners, this isn't just for members. So people don't know this, but Kim Pet Vet Kilroy every month has a group discussion that up until now has been open to everyone, and it's based around the idea of poker empowerment, specifically getting more women players comfortable trying the game, and then finding out what we can do, what everyone can do to make the women that do try the game feel comfortable enough to stick around. Because there's an argument for getting more women to try poker. I think there's also an argument for making it a more welcoming place so that the people that do try are inclined to stick around and have fun and grow the game. So starting on August 9th, Kim's actually, I won't give too many details away. Come on August 9th. So if you are a woman who's interested in poker, this is getting recorded on July 18th, so it'll come out later this week. You've got a few weeks to circle it. 7:30 Eastern on Tuesday, August 9th. So Kim is talking about making a couple really interesting and cool changes to her monthly session, about maybe adding some prizes, maybe adding a home game element to it, maybe having an area where just women players can play against each other and talk while they're playing and get some feedback from other women experts and folks like Kim who really know what they're doing when it comes to the game of poker. And so on August 9th at 7:30 Eastern, if you go to rec.poker, it's right there on the calendar. All you need to do to join is just get a free community account. All it takes is an email address and a smile. This isn't restricted to premium members. This is just for anybody who's interested in this kind of thing. And I know Kim has some plans to make some final decisions about what the September session is going to look like and going forward from there, and what's going to be included, and how we're going to make it a better space for women. But I'm really excited about this. I know we're going to have Kim on before then to get into some more of the details. But as we've got a few weeks to pump it, I just want to make sure that we mention it every week on the show here. August 9th, 7:30, Tuesday night, Eastern. Do come and join. And it's not just for women. There's a lot of great allies. There's a lot of great men with good attitudes here at Rec Poker, and I know Kim appreciates that as well. But really, she'd love to see more women join the group, and I just think it's such a great, easy cause to get behind, and I just like the idea of having some more spaces, especially here at Rec Poker, that are just for women who can feel comfortable and that's what this is all about. Fun at the poker table. That's what Rec Poker always should be. So, all right. I hope people do come and check that out. And if you're watching live, then it's not too late on Wednesday of this week. It'll be too late if you've heard the recording. But if you're watching live on YouTube, you can come and join the Unshuffled mixed game demo, which is on Wednesday night. We're going to be looking at next month's mixed game with Jake from Unshuffled, talking about how to play, some tips and tricks to help guide you through those Saturday night practice mixed games, so that when August comes around, you can win that second Wednesday of the month tournament, pick up a sweet little pin, and get on that list. That's a short list of winners for the monthly mixed game championship. So that's in very elite company there. And just mentioning Unshuffled as well. If you're listening to this live, then on Tuesday, that's Tuesday the 19th, at 6 p.m. Pacific, which is when they do their thing. They are doing a challenge, the Unshuffled Challenge, where you can play for free, pit yourself against all the other folks around the world that are doing the challenge, playing against you play a series of hands against bots. Everyone plays the same hands in the same order against the same bot opponents. And then at the end, whoever made the most chips in that series, I think it's about 10 hands, wins some pretty sweet prizes. I think they've got over $12,000 that they're going to be giving away out of this prize pool, and it's free to enter. So I would go check that out at unshuffled.io. And yeah, Jake from Unshuffled is helping us with these mixed game demos on Wednesday as well. So that'll be a really fun opportunity for folks to get together with. The only other thing every Tuesday night, we at Rec Poker are giving out $50 through, well, actually it's Fun Country that's giving out the $50, but it's going to one of 9 premium Rec Poker members playing in the Fun Country online play and hang. That's every Tuesday night at 9 Eastern. And it's first come, first serve. The first 9 premium members to come and sign up get a chance to compete. We record the sessions. It's a super fun platform, and there's a chance to win $50. And hey, premium membership at Rec Poker only costs $15 a month. And you're telling me that there's 4 Tuesdays in a month. Each Tuesday I could win $50. I mean, you're printing money here. If you get it just as an investment opportunity, that $15 to join Rec Poker Premium has never looked better. And if you use the code Rec Poker, it's only $5. So you can do the math there. That sounds like a pretty good one to join. Yeah, Chris.
No, I was just going to jump in from the chat and kind of mention something on our end too. Joshua Campbell was referring to our conversation around, Vegas and going to Minnesota for the Running Aces Rec Poker Weekend. And he said we need to get one of those set up in the Northeast. And I think one of the things that, I think that maybe we can just talk about is the Rec Poker road trip model is sort of like in its infancy. But we're really interested in kind of thinking about it and exploring other options in other parts of the country and other areas. So if you're a listener and you've got a local card room that you're frequenting, or you've got some area of the country you think this would be really great, we could draw some people there. Get in touch with us, because I think we're really trying to think about how the road trip model can sort of kind of maybe be a little bit sort of grassroots and organic and help spread the word about Rec Poker to different poker playing communities. So
that's a great point, Chris. Because we've had so much fun on our Rec Poker road trips. We've been to Florida, we've been to Iowa, we've been to Minnesota, we've been to Las Vegas. I think I'm missing one in there, but it's a great opportunity for Rec Poker people to get together and have fun at the tables and get to know each other a little better. I think, the socializing that goes on when you're not at the table is an underrated high point of these experiences for me anyway. Sometimes we get an Airbnb where people can all stay at the same place, and sometimes we're staying in the hotel of the venue. But yeah, Rec Poker road trips. So it's, we have members all over the world now. And I'd like to do a road trip out to Montreal up here and play at Playground. Yeah, right. I know that would be a lot of fun.
It's one of my dream, bucket list spots, because I've just heard it's a poker paradise.
Yeah. Poker paradise with poutine. I mean, it's really got everything you could ever possibly want. And last time I was out there, my man Jamel Cuevas made the drive up from New York, and we had a little mini road trip. Just the two of us playing cash and having a great time down there. So Montreal would be on the list. I think we've got to do something out in California. We've got enough members in California now that we could do a trip down to one of the great card rooms down there. I'd love the idea of getting down to. I see some comments in here.
Yeah, there's some comments about Mohegan Suns or Foxwoods in Connecticut. There's Encore in Boston. Best Bet in Jacksonville. Montreal would be cool. Playground would be awesome. So yeah, there's some interest. So if you're more than just sort of like casually interested in this and would like sort of maybe like to help be somebody who helped us, maybe, we would help you do the work. It wouldn't just be on you, but, we'd be looking for somebody local to help us, just start those conversations and maybe be a key ambassador or advocate for this kind of things. If that's something you're kind of interested in, get in touch with us.
Yeah. You know how to do that. Email me, jim@rec.poker, and just say, hey, I live in X state or province or country internationally, and I'd like to, this would be a good fit for a rec poker road trip. And then that's really, all it takes. And it helps having someone with boots on the ground there. So I don't have to just call Foxwoods up and say, hi guys, I host a podcast. Can we have some people over? It's just different when someone's there that, knows who to talk to and can make an impression and that sort of thing. But as Chris said, we've done a lot of the work already. We know the pieces we have to have in place. We know how to make it work. We know how to bring what we need to have fun, and we know how to get some people there. So maybe you're just thinking, I would like it if some rec poker people drove down to a casino near me. Let's make it happen. New internet stranger friend, email me, jim@rec.poker, and let's touch the world. Let's see if we can't make it happen. So that would be great. And listen, the same goes for our international listeners. I know we've got a lot of listeners down in Australia right now. And that's I've always wanted to go to Australia. I don't know if we can budget the longest flight available on planet Earth, but I know we could get folks like Merv Harvey, who would love to get involved with some rec poker folks down there. Troy Chapman, who's an emerging poker character in the Australian poker circles and a big rec poker fan. Keith says here, let's raid an MSPT event. Yeah. Exactly. MSPT feels like a great fit for a rec poker road trip, and Run Good events. We love Run Good. We've had some really fun times with them. They've got Council Bluffs coming up in a few weeks. I know Misclick Donkey is going to be there because that's Tim Fritz and it's in his backyard. So if people want to go and have a good time, I know you'll have some friendly faces down at Council Bluffs, Iowa for that one.
You've been nominated to get a rec poker private jet, Jim, for the Australia trip.
No, I'm sorry, you misheard. It was day 2 that I busted of the main event. Day 2, unfortunately. If I was in those big 6 digits, I mean, I could fly some rec poker people down to Australia. That would be a lot of fun. And hey, yeah, Ben, I'm looking at you, man, in the chat here. Halifax Casino, I don't know if they're doing tournaments again. They might just be doing cash games right now. But I didn't know how good I had it living in Halifax when I did. If I'd known then how hard it would be to find a casino nearby, I would have spent more time at the Halifax Casino. But yeah, Ben, we're putting you East Coast bidder. We're putting you on the list there. Let's see if we can get some Nova Scotian good times in. Yeah, so that would be great. I love the idea of doing more live poker. These rec poker road trips are a great way to get involved with folks. Another great way to get involved with folks is our ever expanding home game club. I was excited to learn from John Somsky that we hit our hard cap from PokerStars at 501 members, but we're working our way through that, eliminating some of the dead wood and getting some new exciting active members in to enjoy that. And if folks want more information about that, they can just go to rec.poker/homegame, where you can learn about the mixed games that are coming up, when the next heads up bracket's going to be, and some results from the 10 home games we run every week, in case you don't want to just listen up, because something tells me you're about to hear about some recent winners from the one and only John Somsky.
Yeah, we found out that we had plenty of room once we got rid of, there was this Bluff Strini character who really didn't add anything to the home games.
Dead weight.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So on Wednesday, July 13th, we had K Poker wannabe Ron Payton won his first mixed game championship series event.
Wow.
Then on July 11th, John Lancer, John Bensky, got his first nightly event. And Ivor Big One won the daily TOC event, also on July 11th. And that's his first TOC victory.
Wow, way to go.
Spot Conlon, Daniel Kennedy won his first nightly event.
Way to go, Dan.
JB Twin Cities, Joanne Bird, got her first nightly event for the year. Evil Roy CA, David Westerveld, got his sixth nightly victory for the year.
He is such a good poker player. He's a very modest guy, but he's quickly climbing the ranks of some of the better poker players here at Rec Poker, I think.
Yes, and just to let you know, that was his 29th lifetime victory.
Wow.
So that's pretty impressive.
Yep.
Then Marky the Shark, Mark Weaver, got his first nightly victory for the year. A really Mad Guy won the daily mixed event on Saturday. Duck and Run 99, Michael Savage, won the 9 a.m. international event. And then Evil Roy CA, David Westerveld, comes back and won his 30th event for the year, his third international or 30th event lifetime, third international event for the year, to win the 2 p.m. nightly event or international event.
Amazing.
And then Fergie 56, Kim Kilroy, won the LPP Sunday event. So she, of course, should contact Jim at rec.poker for her free month at Learn Pro Poker.
Oh man, the one and only Kim.
Don't give her
Kilroy.
that.
No more edges.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
I ended up playing her heads up in that
enough.
one, and
she knows enough. There's a certain point where we're just like, nope.
Yep, that's right. You have to join pro.poker at that point, Kim.
Learn bad poker. That's what
well, I almost think she should be required to play the home game with one hand tied behind her back,
right?
Or maybe she has to take a shot every time the blinds go up, or something.
Back to the main event, just quickly. There was a guy at the table that was drinking Grey Goose vodka, and he took shots every time he went in, all in. And I was like, that's a bold move, sir. That's a bold move. Not a choice I would make, but it's definitely a bold move.
I'll bet each all in became easier and easier.
I think that's negative EV right there.
Yeah. Seriously, what are you doing?
Oh man. Yeah, and I think Kim was actually. I saw earlier there was some chat about Josh and John and Kim all being in the home game last night. So, and Ben says that was a brutal one too. It's tough competition here.
John, the chat started by talking about a brutal beat you put on last night. What? Tell us more.
I don't remember, to be quite honest.
It's just one of many. You just, you just dismiss people right and left. Yeah,
I was running so pure last night. I mean, I had 80 to 100 blinds most of the game, and until I ran into Kim heads up, I couldn't do anything.
Well,
I contributed a bunch of those blinds.
Yeah, did
Jacks against aces.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, well, it's great. I love the home games. I would like to play in more of them. I'm shifting some of my work stuff into the evenings. I have a day job. It's really complicated, so I can't play as much as I'd like to. But there's no soft seats left in the Rec Poker home game. I mean, and I love. This week, we've seeing a bunch of new names in the winner's circle. You can tell the people are getting involved. We joke a lot about, the Kikis and Kim and Dave and Doug Drabeck winning all these tournaments. But I'm always impressed with the number of people that win, unique winners that we have and people that are in the top three. There's not just the same people every time. It's great to see people coming in and enjoying this journey that they're on, this poker journey. Because wherever you are in your poker journey, we're all ascending together, which is one of the things I love about Rec Poker.
It was interesting this last week. I was particularly busy, so I had gotten behind like 3 or 4 days posting the results, and people were getting antsy on Discord. They wanted to hear those winners. So I really appreciate that. I feel bad for being so slow on the results posting there, and I will try to improve in the future.
Oh, that's great. Well, listen, I mean, like I said, this is an accomplishment to win one of these home games now. So it doesn't surprise me. I'd want to hear my name out there too. It's fun. It's fun hearing them come out on the podcast too. John, one of these days you'll say my name again in these home game results. I'm looking forward to that soon, I hope.
It's not guaranteed.
It's definitely not. It's definitely not. Well, Rob, we're talking about what's coming up. You're working through the book study right now, although working doesn't really feel like the right expression, because after such a dense travel through modern poker theory, this feels like we're kind of just like tripping through the fields and the rainbows, enjoying a wonderful poker content as we go. What are some highlights that you've enjoyed?
Rainbows and unicorns.
yeah. So what are you up to now?
There's a lot of good content here. Endgame Poker Strategy, the ICM book by Dara Carney with Barry Carter. We just finished chapter 5, which was playing for the win versus laddering. And we're about to get into chapter 6, which is how our range changes when you consider with ICM consideration for your decisions. So it talks about the shape of the range that you would play in an ICM situation versus a chip EV situation. And
Cool.
That'll be coming up this Wednesday on the 20th. And maybe if we get through that one fast enough, we might even get into the next chapter, which is chapter 7, called Deal Making. So we might get into
interesting
that, how that works. And there's some really interesting information in there. And I don't know how many of you have been involved in final table deals, but I've been involved in a few, and I've taken a bad beat on a few of them, and I've taken a good beat on a few of them. And it's interesting understanding how that works and how people's perceptions are when you get to that final table. So that is a very interesting chapter to discuss. Hopefully we'll get to that. If we don't, it'll be the chapter that we go into the first Wednesday of August. So
right on.
Looking forward to that. Looking forward to that discussion.
Well, and I think that's an underrated edge, that whether you want to think about it as gaining an edge against your opponents or eliminating an edge that they have against you, when you get to the final table, that's not the time that you want to be thinking about deals for the first time and what to consider. And I think, people that are more studied about that can actually make some money by making good deals there. So that's a great point. Some people should be studying up on. I see we're getting a guest joining us here tonight, the one and only Chris Fox Wallace. So I'm going to let him in, and we can start talking about what he's been getting up to. Not only does Chris have a new book coming out, Horse, we're working in the mixed game realm now, but we also got a chance to cross paths down in Las Vegas as he was doing some more photography for Cards Chat, I believe. But Chris is such a pro. You never know who he's working for. He's in every poker room. He's part of so many different organizations. Welcome back to the show, Chris Fox Wallace. Thanks for joining us, man.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. We'll see how this goes. I'm in a meeting room in a hotel in Stillwater, Minnesota.
Oh,
I have no idea how good the internet is or how good any of this will go. I'm usually at home with like ultra high speed internet and basically in a sound studio, and here I'm
Sounds good.
hotel on my laptop.
No, I think it's going great. It's going great so far. Yeah, we're
Good.
glad to have
Good.
you here. So you that's a quick turnaround because I saw you in Las Vegas. It feels like just a week ago. How long have you been back?
Just about a week. Headed home in the next day or two.
Yep.
It's been nice to be here today. The last 2 days have been pretty hot, but the rest of the last week was just fantastic. Beautiful.
Oh, good. Do you want to? Or do you have any so we'll talk about the book. I'm so excited to this is the year where we're getting more involved in mixed games over here, so I can't wait to share that with some folks. But while you were down there, you've got your boots on the ground, you're walking through the World Series of Poker rooms, you're taking photos. What was that experience like? I know you're a grizzled veteran at this point, but were there any kind of special moments or anything exciting about that this year?
My plan was to be at the World Series like 6.5 days a week, taking pictures of most of the bracelets, writing up a few things here and there, and then playing cash games. And I was able to do some of that, but I had COVID for almost 2 weeks, as almost everybody at the series did.
Yeah.
I don't hardly know anybody who came for the series and then didn't go home with COVID. And then a thing came up at the end of the series. That's why I'm in Stillwater. I wouldn't usually. I skipped the main for the first time in like 9 years. And I had to be here testifying for a lawsuit. So I spent half the day educating lawyers on how tournament poker works.
Oh, cool.
So I missed, bigger chunks of the series than I expected to. And I missed Wazwaz and Ramsey's bracelets because I had COVID. And then I missed Rich Alsop's bracelet because I was in Minnesota. So we got 3 Minnesota bracelets this year, and our coverage guy didn't get to see or take pictures of it.
Oh, no.
I have some pictures of all 3 of those people, but not I wasn't there for the bracelets, and I would have loved to have been there for all of those. They're all great guys, and I'm excited that all 3 of them got bracelets. So it's a big summer for Minnesota for sure.
Yeah, no kidding. And I'm like you. I love the cash games down there while the series is on. I was playing in the Paris room when Adam Friedman got announced for which was another one of the mixed games thing. And it's just so cool to see these friends of the show, really doing what they do best and being rewarded for it. Where do you like to play cash? I'm just going to write this down for my own notes when I go down next year. Where are the good games when the series is on, Chris? Where do you go and spend your time?
When the series is running?
Yeah.
The series is always good. You're paying a lot of rake. You're not getting player points. Your service is miserable. You got to go get your own chips. There's all these. They hate making money over at Caesars, but
yeah.
But there's still a lot of cash games running, and for me, the World Series is a great place to play because I have a diamond card, and so I go to the top of the lists.
You're one of those guys. All right,
I'm one of those guys. They should gift me a diamond card every year because the only thing I use it for is to play more poker. I would play half as much poker there, and I never use any of the benefits anyway. So for me, it's great. But for a lot of people, those games are always full. There's 50 or 100 people on the list, and there's just no point to bothering with that.
Yep.
The games are always pretty good at the Wynn. The Wynn was kind of my standard. I played 2-5 at the Wynn like night after night. Before the pandemic for some of the time, and the games during the series they had running this year were really amazing. The Wynn was just a really great room this year. Some of it depends on what games you want to play, and some of it depends on what kind of people you want to play with. If you want nitty old locals that you can run over and you can always trust when they bet into you can fold, then go down to the Orleans and you're going to get exactly that. And if you know how to play against those players and you're comfortable, those are great. If you want crazy people who may play chip pots absurdly large for their stack, the Golden Nugget is great, but it's smoky and the service is mediocre and the players are crazy. You'll deal with more drunk people. You'll deal with more, honestly, mentally ill people. You will deal with louder people. It's very smoky. There's the downside to the Nugget. The Wynn and the Aria are going to be classy places that have good games. The Wynn games I think are better, but just because a lot of the grinders like to be at the Aria because they think it's the fanciest poker room and they want to be, they don't really play for money. They make enough money, but they play for status. If you like the smaller buy-in games, the Bellagio has the smallest of all of the, each variation of game in town. So the 2-5 game at the Bellagio is a $500 max buy-in.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty nitty, but you can run over some people. And then when the fish walks through, they just get slaughtered and you sometimes get a piece of it. I know people who play 2-5 at Bellagio and do just fine. But at the Wynn or Aria, like I'm going to be, where the average player is going to be $2,000 deep in 2-5.
Yeah.
The buy-in's much deeper and the gameplay is a lot bigger. The 2-5 at Wynn is about the same size as the 5-10 at Bellagio.
Right. Yep.
So it's all about, what you're looking for, where you want to play, what kind of players you feel comfortable beating. Yeah, I like the maniacs at the Wynn. Bring me those. Yeah. Bring me the rich guy who doesn't care about money. That's the guy I want.
Well, I'm going to circle the Wynn for next time then. I played a lot at Paris because that's where the series was this year. But the juiciest game, the most fun game I got into was definitely at the Aria. And you're not kidding, man. They're not afraid to swing those pots around. And at one point, this guy there was a dealer error, and he was upset of how the side pot had gotten chopped. So I'm playing 1-3, mind you. So he had $466 that he was just putting in blind until he left. And he was just like, I'm so steamed about this group. And he was like I was a table I really wanted to be at. But yeah, the Paris, that diamond card, man, that is worth its weight in gold. And for folks that don't know, it's for Caesar's Properties. If you've got a diamond level rewards card, you jump right to the top of the cash list. So when plebes like me with our little gold card are sitting down there, 40th in line waiting for a seat, the big shooters come by and just like boop, jump in at the top there. And it's a great perk. It's a great perk.
The problem is that it can lead, if there's 100 people on the list and you get on the list and there's a diamond card walking up every 5 minutes, it doesn't move and you never get a seat. You don't get a seat till tomorrow because there's only diamonds are getting seats because there's so many, they're so in demand. And given how much money they make on those games, I don't understand why Caesars is. I don't get it. Like limit entries in the tournaments if you have to, because the money per hour that they make at the cash games and the sit and goes is much higher.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
Why are you running the Colossus and closing down cash game tables and closing down sit and goes and making it really hard for people to buy into sit and goes and making it a big hassle so that people don't play them? I mean, there's 10% as many sit and goes running as there was 5 years ago, 8 years ago. And I played those things, full time for one summer. They were amazing. I would never consider doing that now. And those are the most money per table per hour that they make is sit and goes. They just Caesars just hates money. They don't hate
money. And do you think this year was it mostly just a dealer shortage? Is just not having enough dealers to sit the games?
That was part of it. There was not as many floors as they needed.
Yeah,
and at times there were just not as many tables as they needed. They had more tables than before, but they've just always been running thin on tables when they have those huge events. And then some of it's a choice. They make a choice to close down cash games, close down sit and goes, and seat people faster instead of making them alternates.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody buys in 3 hours late to the Colossus, I don't care if they wait an extra 10 minutes. Like you bought in 3 hours late to the big stupid tournament that is going to have 20,000 people in it. What did you think was going to happen? There's no reason to close down a cash game to make sure an extra 9 of those 20,000 people get a seat right away. I don't get it, but I don't run the World Series, so
not yet. All right. Well, you're preaching to the choir.
I want that job.
Yeah, I was just saying that earlier. I don't think I want to be in charge of any of this kind of stuff because it seems like
I'm sure the money's great,
nightmare.
and I would take the gig because I think the money's probably fantastic, but
probably.
But it's not an easy job for sure. Like when I'm critical of the series, I'm always trying to remember that this is a hard thing to do.
Yeah. But you're right about that diamond card thing. There was one of my last days there. I got added to the list really early, like at noon or something, because I wasn't playing any tournaments that day or 12:30, and I was 7th on the list. And then 2 hours later at 2:30, I was 12th on the list. And I was like, they weren't opening any more tables. And I was like, well, I'm going to the Aria. But I would have liked to have incinerated some more faces over at Paris, because once people start, drinking a little and they're all angry about busting, those are pretty good cash tables to be playing in.
That's when it's good. Yeah. Yeah. When there's cash game friends who are full-time cash game grinders in Vegas this year told me, you want to play wherever there's a mystery bounty. When people bust a mystery bounty, they're that much more angry.
Yep.
They busted and someone got their bounty. They're really mad. Like they said that the cash games were just out of this world when there was a mystery bounty going on. So next year maybe I'll chase those around town.
Yep, that's a great idea. I mean, I've been down. I'm still pretty new to real big ticket events in the World Series of Poker as a recreational player myself, but as much as I enjoy bracelet hunting and some of the lower buy-in events, I mean, I'm kind of doing myself a disservice by not just going down there and playing the cash games, because like you can print money at the cash games, and I just go and punt it right back off into the tournament series. So it's there's an ecosystem at work there, I suppose.
They also, I don't know why, but this is becoming like read some articles, some economics articles about this. It's becoming more and more of a problem in America of overloading events. Things like, you have the barbecue on the weekend at the park where there's some sort of whatever the fest is. I mean, Minnesota's got a fest every weekend. And if you do this thing on the weekend and you do, and there's, 20,000 people who want to go and you only have space for 8,000 people, why did you do it on the weekend? And what are we doing? Mm-hmm. If you do this on a Tuesday, you're still going to get 8,000 people. So why are we doing this? And they do this at the World Series in a huge way. They put all these named events that have the smaller buy-ins on the weekends when people are already going to be there. And then they overload their dealers, their floor staff. They can't handle the number of people that show up for this thing. Mm-hmm. Run the Colossus Monday through Friday. You'll fill up all your hotel rooms Monday through Friday. And then you know what? They'll still be full Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because that's when people come to the World Series no matter what. I mean, these are like pretty easy problems to solve, but the people in charge of the World Series, I don't know. Every year they throw a World Series and they're shocked a bunch of people show up want to play.
Right. Yeah. Who could have seen this coming?
Man, again this year. This is ridiculous. Where did all these people come from?
Oh, I love it. Well, yeah. And like you said earlier, it's such a logistical nightmare that goes into that. And, this year being the first time in a new venue, I take my hat off to all of them for doing their best and putting it together. But yeah, there's always room for improvement. And I think
when I take over, John Somsky's going to run all the logistics.
Yeah.
He's going to deal with all the planning. He's going to write a program. He's going to write a computer program. It's going to run the whole thing.
Exactly.
And Washam is going to be in charge of security. Anybody gets lippy, and Washam hires all the guys to handle it.
That's it.
You got it. And I just sit in my office and collect the check.
Delegate. That's what bosses do. They don't do any actual work. You just delegate. That's the magical.
You just pick who does the work.
Right. Yeah.
And you get most of the money. I can do that.
I like it. Okay. Well, so we're gonna have to make some room on your schedule coming up. You might have written your last poker book for a while, because I know that that has its own process. That is a pretty taxing experience.
It is a lot of work.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about this one. What it was like writing this particular book, and what called you to do it.
It wasn't what, it was who. A woman from Australia named Tatiana. Her last name's Fox, actually. I was in the 25K horse last year in the World Series, and I got this message on Twitter about writing a book with them as Rockies. And this woman Tatiana said she was writing a book with them as Rockies, and she wanted my help publishing it. I've done a lot of publishing stuff over the last couple of years, and published a bunch of non-poker related books for people. And so they just didn't like the offers they had from publishers, and they wanted to do it themselves, and they wanted to talk to me about it. So I went on break and at the Rio, there used to be that back area where if you were playing like a big 10K or a big tournament, that the bigger buy-in tournament, it'd be back in this one area and you could walk right out to the dealer break area through this back door that you weren't supposed to know about, but everybody did it. And then back there, they would have like the basketball hoop or the axe throwing or whatever that people would gamble on. I saw tons of crazy things happen back there. Paul Volpe and Huckseed and guys like that gambling at $5,000 a shot, shooting free throws and stuff. And Huck was a college basketball player, so you'd think he would crush. But then he's got a backpack on and he's got his heels on the back of his shoes. And he's like, so he's just not, doesn't have a big advantage, But so I walked back there and ended up walking around the Rio back parking lot, talking to Tatiana about what's going to happen with this book. And it turned out, and this happens a lot, someone knows someone who they think should write a book or whose story should be told. And so they say, I'm a writer and I'm going to do that. I'll help you write this book and I'll put it together. I have like 6 projects right now that have asked me to do this that I don't have time for. Then the person who says they're going to write the book is not able to write a book. It's not an easy thing to do. And Tatiana didn't have a lot of poker experience. And so for her to be writing a book on horse was going to be tough, even with the interviews she had from the Mizrakis. So she finally decided, what do you think about, what do we do with this book? And I said, I have a horse book mostly written, and I'll take your interviews and I'll talk to the Mizrakis on the phone and we'll add in their stuff and I'll rewrite it and I can do that. So then it turned into sort of my horse book with the Mizrakis. And by the time we had this figured out as to how this was going to work, it was like 2.5 months before the World Series. So we got this decided, and I open up the horse book from 2008, and it's still on my Google Drive. And I've always kind of been thinking maybe I'll do something with this. And I open it up and I start reading it, and this is not going to do. It's just dated. The writing isn't as good as I can write now, not even close. It's just all got to be redone. I have to write a new book. I like the structure. I'm going to keep the structure, and I have some important points that I need to cover that are in that book, but I basically just need to throw this away and write a new book. And I have 2.5 months to write a book on horse. And I have a bunch of audio interviews with the Mizrakis. So I start to incorporate those things and create a structure, and I have her ask them some more questions within this structure. Like there's a common mistakes chapter for each game, and I have her ask, what are the common mistakes in this? And then send me that audio that I can transcribe and use in the book. And then I get the book mostly done, and then I call them each, which is like herding cats. They're poker pros. And poker pros are never easy to just get to do something that's not playing poker. So luckily, Tom Hammers was part of this project where I knew that he knew them, the Mizrakis, and so I called him and said, "Do I want to work with the Mizrakis? Is this a thing? I want to just make sure that because I know you know these guys." And he said, "Oh yeah, that'll be great. That'll be good." And then I said, "Okay, can you let them know that they should work with me?" And he said, "I'll call them right now." And then like 5 minutes later, Tatiana said, "The boys just called and said they want to do this project." For sure.
That's great.
Tom greased the wheels there. So I texted Tom, "Hey, can you tell the Mizrakis to call me?" And like an hour later, they called me, and then I was able to talk to them and ask like the final questions and things that I was missing and make sure that, I don't want to put their name on the book unless I'm sure they've had a lot of input into it,
Yeah.
So I got all that, had to get it, written, edited, formatted, cover made, all that stuff in 2.5 months, basically by myself. It was a lot. I didn't do anything else for 2.5 months, nothing.
No, I'm sure.
And then I was going to do a book signing at the, at Resorts World at the Mixed Game Festival, and then I got COVID. So that didn't happen. And it took forever for author copies to come from Amazon. Everything that could go wrong just went wrong and slowed us down. So I didn't really have author copies in my hand until like mid-June. But the good news is Rob just won the WPT 5K championship at the Venetian. And I now have a picture of him holding the book with this. I mean, this trophy is enormous. This trophy he won is like 4 feet tall, made of silver. It's enormous. It's absurd. Like, I don't know how he's getting this thing home. It's not going on a flight to Florida.
Right.
But I've got a picture of him like holding the book and I That's with the trophy. That was good. And I think he made 900,000. It was good.
Pretty good day for both of you, I guess.
I mean, better for him. For sure, better for him.
Well, that's exciting,
yeah,
man.
So I published it myself, and don't have to worry about chopping up all that money with a publisher.
Right.
And I used the quote intentionally when I was telling you about it. Tatiana said they weren't happy with the offers they got from poker publishers. This is a thing. I didn't ship this book to poker publishers and try to get it sold. I didn't do any of that. This is just what Tatiana and the Mizurakis told me. And I know it's true. I know I did ask, and they have emails from these poker publishers. They didn't go to 2+2. Some people don't know that 2+2 still publishes books. They're kind of old school. Some people apparently they're still the biggest poker publisher. I don't know, but for whatever reason, they didn't go to 2+2. Well, I wrote that. Just that sentence that they didn't like the offers they got from poker publishers, and so they brought it to me to self-publish in the introduction to the book, which is in the README. You can look inside on Amazon. Well, Mason Malmuth, who runs 2+2, saw this on the look inside in the book on Amazon, and decided that I was attacking his company. Mason has problems, whatever. But he posted about it on 2+2, and then I owed him an apology. And there's 5 pages in the thread now, and like 95% of the people posting in this thread are just mocking Mason, telling him it's ridiculous and he's wrong and he should just give it up. So when I got into this, I logged right onto 2+2 and told him, look, this doesn't have anything to do with you. I don't know. You're not going to get an apology out of me. This is unrelated to you. You're being ridiculous. And then I challenged him to a heads-up match.
There you go.
We could broadcast it on Poker Go, and I will remove the offending thing from the book. I can do that. It's print on demand. I can change it for all future copies in just a minute. That I will remove that if he beats me. And if he doesn't beat me, he has to issue a public apology, and he can choose the game and the stakes. And he has no interest in that. So I thought it would be fun. But I also don't want to I don't really want to pile on Mason because I know he's socially very awkward, and he just won't get over this, and it won't get any better to pile on. But it's fun. It was fun to play with him a little bit anyway.
Yeah, I heard there was a bit of a 2+2 thread uproar over it, and it did seem to be kind of removed from any actual grievance as far as I could tell. But
it was ridiculous. It's an absolutely silly thing.
Yeah. Well, are e-copies of this available as well, Chris, or paperback only? How do folks?
Absolutely. We should probably just give one away.
Oh, I love that idea. Well, yeah. Here we do a contest every week on the show here, where I get to roll one of my nerdy dice that don't always have 6 sides. Ooh. So why don't I say right now, thanks, Chris. If you're in the YouTube audience and you'd like to win a copy of Chris Fox Wallace's new book, Horse, type the word contest into the chat, and we will do a little draw in a few minutes once all the hundreds of people here have a chance to type the word contest into the chat box there. I will say...
What do you do if you have the 8-sided dice and 12 people want it?
Then I pull out my 12-sided die instead. I don't know if you can see a few of these here. So, I can go up to 20 on
you
one.
You don't have 100?
No, I have
100-sided dice.
Well, I have 2 10-sided dice, and the way that you do it is one is the 10 and the other one's the 1. So you can roll. You can get a number up to 100.
He's rolled a 1 6 weeks in a row, so I'm not convinced he just doesn't roll a 1-sided dice every week.
Yeah, that's right.
The first person to put it in chat.
The 1-sided dice is tough to get.
It is. You really got to wrap your head around that one. The Mobius dice.
You can't even pick it up off the table.
No.
Actually, it's a marble.
Yeah, nice. There it is. Of course it is. Perfect. Yeah. So I've got a bunch of nerdy dice here because I'm a well-rounded person, and I used to be interested in all sorts of games that aren't poker or backgammon. And sometimes you need all sorts of nerdy dice. So yeah, I've got 12-sided, 8-sided, 20-sided, 4-sided, 6-sided. Here, if you see, here's the one that you use if you need to do 100. That's got the different 10, 20, 50, 60, 80, all the way through. And then here's the four-sided. It's a pyramid. That one's kind of fun too. We're not going to need that one tonight, though, I don't think.
You could make a mess at a craps table.
Yeah, you could really have some fun at a craps table.
It would be fun to sneak those in and take like a 4 and then the 10 and the 20, and then just pick up the dice and then boom, and off go the most ridiculous dice.
I think you're onto something. I like that idea.
865. Is that craps? What is it?
Oh, I love that. Yeah, there are some fun ones in here. You can surprise some people. I also think this would be a good way to at the poker table to do some of your mixed strategies. If you want it, you could really get very particular down to like, well, 5% of the time I do this and 5% of the time I do this other thing.
I know people who play online who have a random number generator running constantly in the corner of their screen for that very reason.
Oh, yep.
I've used my watch for years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you know that you should be calling 10% of the time, just think, okay, if my watch is in the first 6 seconds, and then I'll look, and right now it'll be a fold. You just have to be careful that people don't realize you're doing that, because then they'll wait until it's about to be in the first 6 seconds if they want you to call.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I tried using that, but I found that I was always like, I would use, if it's in like the first half of the minute, then I was going to raise, and if it was in the second half of the minute, I was going to call. I was always like looking really fast so I could try and get there in the first half of the minute. Which
looking and then
really
going, no, wait, no, look again.
Oh wait, no, I was thinking about something else. Now, how about now? Yeah, how about now? All right, well, let's
look at it and wait till it's in the first half. There it is.
Yeah, okay, there. Now I'm looking officially, right? That's it, randomizing. All right, so I think we've got our guesses in here. I'm going to start with Eric Anderson, who got the first one in, and we'll count down from there. Let us see who's going to win. Okay, this one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ben was in there once already. Okay, Troy Chapman, you are the winner, and you are allowed to say contest, given that you're a student. And actually, Troy came in.
Troy might have a copy. If he doesn't, I'm glad that he's getting one.
There you go. And he, Troy came in a little late in the show, but actually missed a shout out earlier. Troy, we were just talking about you a little earlier on the show as well. So this is the Troy Hour featuring Chris Fox Wallace here on the Rec Poker Podcast. So I'm excited for that. Awesome. So email me, jim@rec.poker, and we'll make sure that happens. Just like every week, we like to if it's
Troy, just message me on Facebook and I'll give me your details, and I have Troy's email. I can just make sure he gets a Kindle copy. That's easy.
There you go. Yeah, he's a big fan of yours, and I like to think that I just delegated that right out of my to-do list.
There you go.
There you go. I don't have to do a damn thing about that.
Super perfectly done.
Yep.
Can't do it better.
I'm gonna let you guys. Work is a 4-letter word.
The great part of delegation is that it's not about getting work done. If the work doesn't get done now, it's not your fault.
That's nice.
Once it's delegated, it's gone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
If Troy comes back, you can just yell at me. It's not like you still have to go do the work. You just yell at the guy to do the work.
And that's fun. That's not even work. Like yelling at people.
Absolutely.
That's among the highlights of my day.
Yeah. I've been this being an entrepreneur thing, for 25 years is silly. I should have been a manager. Apparently it's
that's right. Yeah. Something tells me
yelling at people for 25 years.
I think you're having even more fun, Chris. I think you're having even more fun.
I'm sure that's true. I did not like jobs.
No, me neither. Well, are there any other? We're going to let Chris go soon. He's been a superstar sharing his time with us tonight. If anyone else has any more comments or questions in the chat, now's a great time to put it in there. I see a couple people are saying that they've already picked up a copy on Kindle. So you're spreading the love already, Chris, getting people more involved in horse and mixed games, which is, I think, the future of fun poker. As great as No Limit Hold'em is for tournaments, I mean, when it comes to having a good time.
If you've been playing for a while, Hold'em gets really boring.
Yeah.
The better you get at it, the more boring it gets, honestly.
Yep. I've heard that.
We should all just be playing Super Stud 8 and Razdoogie in rotations.
Maybe one day we're gonna have to spend more time working in John Somsky's mixed game practice series so we can learn and improve.
Excellent. If you guys end up doing a book study with the book, I'll come back for that too.
Yeah, that would be great.
At the end of that'd be fun.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we will. So last question before you go. Of the games in Horus, which is your favorite and why?
Stud 8 is my favorite. I think there's more going on. It's more interesting. You get to play a few more hands, but everybody thinks they get to play a lot more hands. I find it really profitable, and it's a game where you have to be a little intuitive. With Raz makes sense to me immediately. It's just a game that seems very easy to play to me. And just as soon as I started playing Raz, I was like, yeah, this is easy because the hands are actually linear. You can't be facing a draw and you don't have spots like the 10 jack suited ace king offsuit pair of fours where like you have rock, paper, scissors. You don't have any of that in Raz. In Raz, the hands are linear. Just this hand is this hand and this hand and this hand. It's just a ladder. And so it's a very simple game. Whereas with Stud 8, there's just none of that. The hands are just so far from linear, scattered all over the place. And it's very interesting. There's tons of unique spots. Playing bigger Stud 8, like 40-80 or bigger Stud 8, you're raising people off of the second best low hand because you have like the fifth best low hand and they have the second best low hand and you're doing it on 7th Street because they're afraid they're going to get caught in the whip because this guy's got the high. There's all this complicated stuff that happens that just you don't see in games that aren't split pot.
Mm-hmm.
And in 08, you get to split pots, but you're still playing a boring flop game, and you're really just showing down the nuts. Whereas in Stud 8, you just don't have that. So, I like Stud 8 the most, and then my favorite of all poker games is all of the stud split pot super variants. Those are just fantastic. Where you get dealt 4 cards down, you discard 2, and then you get your 1-up card. Or Tahoe style where you get dealt 5 cards and you flip 1 up and discard 2. So you choose your up card. And then from there you play like Stud 8 or you play Raz Doogie where like the low hand and the best Badoogie split the pot. Those games are a ton of fun. And even when you play them with players that are fairly good, even playing like 48 or 5100, you will have a couple players at the table who just basically find a reason to play every hand. Because if you get 5 cards, and you're playing a high-low game, you're going to get something that's playable for high or for low, unless you're good enough to know that like 3, 4, 6 rainbow isn't good enough in this game, right? But almost no one knows that, so they're always finding something to play. So it's always been very profitable for me to play those games too. So my next book is just on Super Raz Doogie. It's just a 400 pages of strategy for Super Raz Doogie.
Bring it on. I
Super
love
Raz Doogie for highly, highly advanced players.
Please.
And I'm going to launch a publishing company called 4+4. I'm going to talk in the introduction. I'm going to talk about how there was a poker publisher we didn't think was doing a very good job. And so we decided to launch our own poker publisher to do a better job.
Oh, you're going to crack me up here, man. Oh God, that's fantastic. Well, you can see just hearing Chris talk about it, you can see why it's going to take solvers a long time to solve some of these mixed games. Like it's going to be a safe place to play, even when they get No Limit Hold'em all figured out. So that's exciting.
Hurry up.
Yeah.
Hurry up.
Okay.
There's solvers for most of these mixed games already.
Yeah.
Almost no one has access to them. Right. I've been trying to get access to a couple of different ones for a while now. I got to play around on one for a little bit that deals with 08, but it's a point of investigation for me at the moment to find out who has all these solvers and get access to them, and like how are they built and where are they, who else has seen them, because the people I know that have them are the people that are crushing all the mixed game tournaments right now. So,
well, yeah.
They're clearly, they work a lot. The solvers are not giving people nearly as much advantage in No Limit Hold'em as they are in mixed games from what I'm seeing. The mixed game solvers are a big deal. But those solvers have to be written for each game, basically. There's not one where you can just input the game rules in it yet. And I don't know that there's been one written for things like Super Raz Doogie or anything like that. But I know Short Deck, 08, PLO, PLO is a really tough one. Basically, like the solver takes forever to solve a single hand. But Omaha 8, stud 8, Raz, stud and Raz, limit stud and limit Raz solutions, like a no limit hold'em solution with 3 betting sizes will take like 25 minutes on a really, really fast server.
Right.
And a stud high solution in a fixed limit game will take like less than a minute.
Huh.
So,
well, I know in the evolution of this stuff, the people that develop it, they are doing so that they can use it in the high stakes games that they want to crush. And it takes a while for that technology to kind of get spread out amongst players that are less and less serious. And then it becomes commercially available and people start, it becomes a product itself. So that does, there's kind of like a timeline for that.
They're very closely guarding the mixed game solvers at this point. I mean,
I bet.
Like, I've had people that I know for a fact have it tell me, I don't know about that. Never heard of it.
Right.
They're not trying to let anybody get hold of it.
No. Well, I don't blame them. I mean,
I know a couple of people who are offended that like they're really good friends with some people that have a solver and the guy still denies it to them.
Right.
Like, yeah, they're playing it really close to the best of those things because there's so much money involved.
Yeah. John, did you have something on that?
I was just going to mention that, usually if you're playing mixed games, that's the table in the room that's having the most fun.
Yeah.
Because
absolutely. Speaking of John Somsky, he could probably build us one.
That's true.
Have a rec
John,
poker.
You've got a lot of free time. Let's do a rec poker mixed game solver.
I think I could handle the programming aspect of it. I'm not sure that I know the math. I don't know that I know what to program. Someone can tell me that. I could probably program.
We might have a very profitable collaboration here.
Could be collab. Could be time. Hey, now I'm not even joking. Let's make this happen. All right. Let's see what happens before we have you on the show next, Chris.
All right.
The last time you were on the show, Keith Brandt was joining us in the YouTube chat, and we just ran out of time for him to ask a question about coaching, but we've got him here on the panel tonight. So Keith, for those of you who don't know at home, Chris also works as a coach. He's involved in a lot of different aspects of the poker industry. So Keith, you had a follow-up question on that, I think.
Yeah. What kind of coaching do you offer for like a serious amateur who's can't play full time because they have a job, but would be within a serious amateur's budget? Golfers who are part-timers will spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars a year for coaching. I wonder if you offer something like that for poker. Hundreds and hundreds of dollars a year sounds right.
Yeah. That works for me. First of all, I think you're inside one of my pictures. Definitely, if I didn't take that picture, I took a bunch like it. Your background
that sounds right.
World Series of Poker wide angle shot.
Hey, I took a bunch of those.
You took the picture? I guess anybody could take that picture. All year long, you could walk through the room and take that picture. Most of my students are kind of serious amateurs. I do have a number of students who've gone pro, and then I have a number of what you would call like old school TV pros, like very well known pros who need to update their game. I have some people like that as well, but more than half my students are just amateurs who want to get better and make more money, or run deeper in their local tournaments or beat up their Tuesday night home game, whatever it is. And I'm happy to tailor my coaching to whatever time you have and money you have. You can, if you're in a big hurry and money's no object, we can do 4 hours a week, but almost no one wants that. It's a lot of work. It's a pretty good amount of money. It just doesn't, whereas I have some people come to me and say, look, I don't have any money. My poker bankroll is $1,200 and I tell them, okay, let's do a lesson once a month and I'll give you a ton of homework. And, half your lesson will be me checking homework from last month, and the other half will be me giving you the homework for next month. And there will be a little time for you to ask me a few questions about previous homework. So if we do one lesson a month, we're spending, $3.33 a day. That's cheaper than a cup of coffee. You can save a Fox for $3.33 a day, and get a lot out of it. If you're a person who wants to work on your own a lot and not spend a lot of money, that's fine by me. We'll figure something out. A lot of people do an hour a week. or 2 hours every 2 weeks. That's a common thing when people first start and they're serious and they want to improve a lot. I have a lot of people do that, but I don't care if it's once a month or if it's once whenever you feel like taking a lesson. And I have some groups that, split up the money too. Last year before the World Series, I had a group of women, many of whom were from Minnesota, who would send me hand histories. And I would just, 1 week it's Melissa's and 1 week it's Jones and the next week. And I would go through it and everybody gets to see it. Everybody gets to discuss it. I get to, they get to watch these hands play out and me talk about what's going on. And group lessons are $175 an hour. And if there's 6 of you, well, that's pretty cheap.
Yep. That's a great way to do it.
So then you can get a lesson. Then you can do a lesson every week. It's still only cost you $100.
How do we get a hold of you for something?
blindstraddle@gmail.com or Twitter or, whatever. But I'll put it in the chat here too. blindstraddle@gmail.com.
And
you can
Fox
always find
Poker Fox.
At Fox Poker Fox on Twitter and poker.photos, not poker.photos.com or anything like that, just poker.photos. There's like 4 boxes along the bottom. One of them is image search. You can go see if there's pictures of you. I think there are, and see if they're tagged with whatever. I might have just tagged them with Rec Poker, but you can find images there. And my rule is, it's not the law. It's not even a photographer thing. It's just what I think. If it's a picture of you, you can have it. Use it for whatever you want. I don't care what you do with it. It's a picture of you. I'm already selling a picture of you if someone wants to buy it. So we're let's split this. Let's chop this thing, right? Like you can use it for whatever you want. If it's a picture of you. But if you go to that site, on the top nav, there are 5 things instead of 4, and one of them is poker strategy resources. And there's my contact info is on the site, and then the poker strategy resources is linked to my books. It's got my hand analysis spreadsheet. It's got a bunch of other stuff as well, links to various places, and that's so that's a place to find like lots of information as well.
Awesome. And Chris, that was www.poker.photos.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. Well, I'm going to check that out, and I encourage our listeners to as well. And that's a great attitude you've got. You've always been very generous with your time and with your photography work. And I know that's something that can make a big impact on recreational poker players. You're down there playing in the World Series and you get a chance to have that immortalized by a professional. I mean, come on, that's amazing.
I don't have good pictures of my bracelet.
Right.
My bracelet win.
Right. Right.
There's a poker news photographer from 2014 that has some probably that I could buy or something. I don't know, but none of the photos I have are any good. And I want everybody to have those. So if somebody wins a bracelet and I take those photos, then I make sure they know. Like David Jackson, who beat Phil Hellmuth heads up in the 3K. He was like, "Whoa, you got pictures?" And I, downloaded a bunch of the pictures. Scott Ball, a friend of Scott Ball's, just asked me about the pictures and downloaded a bunch of them to make him like some stuff for his birthday. Alex Foxen and Kristen Bicknell, when Alex Foxen won the 100K this year, I got some amazing pictures of them on the thing, and they were super excited. And they're going to get some. I'm having them some acrylics made for them from the like a print place here in Vegas. So like people are really excited to get them, and it's not like it costs me anything. I'm already being paid to take the photos. It doesn't cost me anything to make sure that Alex has that picture if he wants it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, just one of the many ways that you contribute to the poker world here. So it's great to be able to shake your hand electronically here. And I'm already looking forward to getting to corner you and put a beer in your hand next summer, hopefully, when we're all COVID free and enjoying another World Series, if not before then. Man,
having everybody be COVID free feels like a pipe dream at this point.
Yeah.
I hope that happens.
Yeah.
But I'm always up for a beer. If you're going to buy me a beer, you can come to Minnesota or come to Vegas during the winter too. Like come whenever you want.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Best time to get out of Minnesota. Come in February.
I'm going to tell Mrs. Blefsterini. They got an open invitation. I got to head. Sorry, honey, I got to head back down and buy Chris a beer. It was very clear. There was no.
I told him I was coming. as soon as it got to be 10 below.
Yeah, that's right. It would be rude of me not to go, and I'm if anything, I'm polite. All right. Well,
thanks for having me.
Yeah, I think we'll wrap it up here. This has been a phenomenal chat as always, Chris. Thank you so much. So I guess I'm going to thank our sponsors, the Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack and Casino, and Mark Bershon at Website Amp. All these great people in the YouTube chat. Thank you so much. Chris, Fox, Wallace, John, Keith, Rob, Chris, and you, the listeners. Have a good night, everybody.